I guess my first job as a young man was the lawn mowing business. I mowed probably 3 or 4 lawns a week, and I had a friend, Mike. He also had 3 or 4 lawns that he mowed, and we put our lawns together and started helping out each other, and our 8 lawn business ended up, I guess, growing to about a 30 lawn business. It was very successful. The thing I learned from the lawn business was customer service and how picky people can be with their lawns, and very demanding, but it was quite a lesson for me, not only in the customer service end of it, but also the responsibility. People expected you to be there on time. They expected you to do a good job. And of course, growing the business was good for us too. Again, we started out with some 8 lawns, and the first year when I was probably 13 or 14 years old, and it did so well that we did it when we were 15, and probably the last year we did it was when we were 16, and the business did very well. We did very well. When I was a student at the main campus at New Mexico State University in Las Cruces, the summer months I worked for the U.S. Forest Service as a standby firefighter. The standby firefighter, we did a lot of things. We did road work, we set cattle guards, we set fence, we did everything. You name it, we did a lot of things in the forest. We normally started about 7 o'clock in the morning, and we'd quit about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I remember one day we had just quit for the day, and we were heading back to the cabin. We got back to the cabin, and we had a message that we needed to go back to the main facility because they had spotted a fire. We went back to the main facility, we loaded the truck, and we headed up to the fire. We got up to the fire about 7 o'clock that night. We loaded up our tools, and we headed out. I had my shovel, I had my backpack, and I had a water pack, and it's pitch dark. You got a flashlight, and you're working your way around. Sat there all night with a shovel and doing what I could to put the fire out. The sun came up the next morning. I was very tired, I was very hot, I was very dirty, and I can remember standing on the side of the mountain thinking, I don't want to do this for a living. So at that point I realized that it's very important to get an education, and I was very glad to get back to New Mexico State in Las Cruces when the term started in the fall. One of the reasons I went to the branch was the main campus had an ROTC program, and I was not interested in ROTC at the time. So I stayed at the Carlsbad branch, and later New Mexico State did away with the ROTC program mandate. I transferred to the main campus, and the thing I remember the most, I think, was the professors there. My law professor had a great sense of humor. My accounting professor was ex-IBM, and he did a great job, great communicator. And I also had an economics teacher that was just very enjoyable, had a great sense of humor. I recall once in the class, he was up there doing his lecture and kind of dancing around like he did to keep everybody entertained and interested. And a girl in the front of the class asked a question, and he said, well, that's on page 43, I think. And I'm sitting there thinking, page 43, how does he know that? And so we go along, and about 20 minutes later in the class, someone asked another question. He said, well, I think that's on page, 48. I'm going, this guy's really good. I said, how does he know that? So I start thumbing through the book and trying to figure out how he knows all of this. I'm thinking this guy must read this book every night, but then I realized Paul Ziegefuss wrote the textbook, so that's how he knew all the answers. But I recall Paul Ziegefuss. He was my economics teacher, and the thing I remember about New Mexico State was I thought that the staff of professors that they had in the business college at the time did a great job. They did a great job for me. When I was in public accounting, I owned a Corvette, and my wife was in the insurance business. I got home one afternoon and checked the mail, and I had a a letter from the insurance agency that they had canceled my insurance. And I thought, well, I'll get this straightened out. So the next day I made a point to drop in the insurance office there, and I was going to get it all straightened out. And I asked to see Marion. And the lady at the reception desk said she's right over there. So my intent was to go down to the insurance company and get my insurance problem resolved. But the end result was not talking about insurance, but walking out of there with a date. And I never got the insurance. I ended up selling my car and getting a wife. The oil industry is an interesting business to me. No one likes to go to the gasoline station and pay $1.40 to fill up their car, but they don't think anything about going to the airport, hopping a plane, and flying wherever in the world they want. They don't think anything about getting in their car and driving wherever they want. It's a commodity that fuels the growth of the world. It obviously, in today's environment, we know how much the effect of high oil prices are on our economy. It's an industry that I've always found absolutely intriguing, very interesting. It's full of political problems, process problems, refining problems, transportation problems. This industry has its challenges from day one, and I thrive on trying to solve or do my part to solve those problems. A quality company has good, talented people, has good leadership, and has good direction. But I think the key thing in a successful company is you have to have the right people in the right spot. The best example that I can think of is Michael Jordan. He could make $40 million a year playing basketball, but he couldn't make $100,000 a year playing baseball. If you recall, some years ago, he decided to retire from the game and get into baseball, and he could never do any good. And I think that's a perfect example of putting the right people in the right place. And that's what we try and do at Giant. That's what all companies try and do, is to find out what a specific person's talent is and put them in that area. And I think that's what makes companies successful, is, again, good, talented people with direction, with goals, with good leadership, and, again, just having the right person in the right spot. My advice to the college students today is an education is the foundation of their life. From here, they go forward into whatever fields that they decide to go. But education opens a lot of doors. Education is desire, and education is discipline. It takes a lot of work to get a college degree. When I talk to job applicants, the first thing I look at is their education. The second thing I look at is their experience. To me, an education shows that they had the desire and the discipline that it took to accomplish that goal. And that's a big step, I think, in a career. But education opens a lot of doors, and with those doors comes the experience that you need, and you would grow in your career, you grow with people, you become a better communicator, a better employee, a better employer, and it all starts with an education. Everyone has their own definition of success. When you're 20 years old, your definition of success is going to be different than when you're 40 and when you're 50. My definition of success is being pleased with what you've accomplished and looking back on your life and looking at your family, looking at what you've accomplished and being satisfied with that. I don't think that you can say that you're completely successful until you've reached the end of the trail and you say, I'm finished and I am successful, because being the age I am, I hope I continue to be successful, and my definition of success will be different 10 years from today than what it is today. Well, standard Monday at Giant Industries is full of meetings and finding out what went on the last week and figuring out what our next game plan is. I got out of the meetings and I'm going through my stack of messages, and there was one from Danny Arnold. And I said, Jerry, what's this about? Jerry's my assistant. And she said, you know, Danny Arnold from New Mexico State called. And the first thing I think is, this has got to be a joke, because there's always people shooting at you in this office. This office is full of ornery, mischievous people. And the very first thing that came to mind was, yeah, it's one of these guys, you know, so what am I going to do? And Jerry looked at me and she says, no, this is serious. And so I returned Danny's call, and he told me what this is about, and I was very surprised. Most of all, I was very flattered, and I still couldn't believe it. I spent 4 years trying to get out of New Mexico State, and now then I'm being asked to come back and inducted into the College of Business Hall of Fame. But I'm very flattered and very honored to be a part of this.
Well, I was always fascinated with work and the idea of having a job and the independence that provided. I couldn't wait to get a job. I actually jumped the gun a little bit. My brother had a paper route. I wasn't old enough to get one, so I got him to outsource part of his paper route to me, and that's how I got started. But while I was growing up, I had jobs that included managing a laundromat, being a janitor for a men's clothing store, salesperson for a 5 and 10 cent store. I was a lifeguard, pumped gas, washed cars. And that all led up to my first shot at entrepreneurship, which was starting a rock and roll band, and cut a record. We were actually profitable with that, and did that in my late high school, early college years. But I decided if I wanted to eat on a consistent, regular basis, I better move on. So I actually learned how to program computers and worked my way through college as a computer programmer and systems